Remarks now by author Robert Spencer, who directs the blog called Jihad Watch. He's followed by Kate Obenshain, former Virginia Republican Party chair. The two spoke recently at the annual Conservative Student Conference of the Young America's Foundation. This is about 2 hours.
Thanks, guys. Well, good morning. My name is Blair Daly. I'm an intern here at Young America's Foundation, which is a leading organization dedicated to advancing the conservative movement on college campuses. If you'd like to take advantage of the resources provided by Young America's Foundation, please go ahead and contact us by phone at 1-800-USA-1776 or on the internet at www.yaf.org. We're going to now move on to our next speaker. His name is Mr. Robert Spencer, and this man has been a courageous voice for the truth about the enemy that so shockingly struck us back on September 11th, 2001. He is director of Jihad Watch, which can be found at jihadwatch.org, which is a project of the David Horowitz Freedom Center, which monitors the threat of radical Islam around the globe. It's a very good resource for information on this topic. Mr. Spencer began studying Islamic theology, law, and history back in 1980. Now 30 years later, he's written hundreds and hundreds of articles, and as well as 8 books on this subject. 2 of these books are New York Times bestsellers, The Truth About Muhammad and The Politically Incorrect Guide to Islam and Their Crusades, which debunks such politically correct myths as the Quran teaches tolerance and peace, and the Crusades were an unprovoked attack on the Islamic world. Next month he'll be releasing his next book, which is called The Complete Infidel's Guide to the Quran, which would be an excellent resource. It is obvious he's an expert in his field, and as such he's led seminars on Islam and jihad for many sectors of the U.S. intelligence community, including the United States Central Command. Mr. Spencer is uncompromising in his determination to make the truth known about this real and dangerous threat to the existence of the American way. I ask you to please warmly welcome Mr. Robert Spencer.
Have you heard the good news? The war on terror is over. I missed the parade. Actually, I wonder who won. But anyway, it's over. The Barack Obama administration announced yesterday that there was no more war on terror. In case you missed it, it's all done. The United States government is no longer going to speak about terrorism in connection with attacks by Islamic jihadists on United States personnel or institutions. And the government is not going to speak about Islamic jihadists at all, because the word jihad in Arabic means struggle, and there are so many different struggles in Arabic, many of which are noble, and that therefore, said the government spokesman who was talking about this yesterday, it would be only to give legitimacy to the, what do you call them? You can't call them terrorists. To those people. It would give them legitimacy if you called them jihadis. Now, there are a number of problems with this, and one of them is that that means that the only people who will be calling them jihadis are the jihadis themselves. And why does this matter? What does it matter what we call them, or whether the war on terror is over or not, or whether we speak about it in terms of Islamic jihad or not? Why should this make a difference? All this has to do with an initiative that is widely known as the Stealth Jihad. And what it has to do with the Stealth Jihad is this. If you do not know, it's an ancient principle of warfare that you may have heard. In order to defeat an enemy, you have to understand that enemy. You have to know who he is. You have to know why he is doing what he's doing. You have to know what he hopes to accomplish. And if you do not understand those things, then you have no chance of victory. Then it's all over. And so, the first thing that the United States government ought to have done on September 11th, 2001, and actually ought to have been doing before that, because 9/11 was not the first attack by these people on the United States personnel or institutions. The first thing that the United States government should have done was to examine the speeches and the writings of the perpetrators and their allies, and to come to some understanding of who they are, why they are doing what they're doing, and what they hope to accomplish. And this was not done. 8 years later, this has still not been done. Not only has it not been done, and there's even less prospect of it ever being done now that the Obama administration has declared the war on terror over and jihad out of bounds as a point of discussion. But also, the fact is that the Islamic jihadists have undertaken a large-scale initiative over a period of many years to achieve precisely this goal. And if anybody was a victor in the Obama administration's announcement yesterday, it was the forces of the global jihad. The Stealth Jihad is this. It's an initiative to advance the agenda of the terrorists by non-terrorist means. Everybody knows there are terrorists, and everybody knows that they flew the plane into the building on 9/11 and into the Pentagon and so on. What were they trying to accomplish? Very many fewer people know that. But if you look at the writings of Osama bin Laden and other people like him, it becomes very clear that what they wanted to do was weaken the United States, and what they still hope to do is weaken and ultimately destroy the United States, and ultimately replace the free constitutional rule that we enjoy, or still enjoy to some degree, in the United States with Islamic law. And Islamic law institutionalizes discrimination against women, discrimination against non-Muslims, and extinguishes the freedom of speech, the freedom of conscience, and other things. And this is the vision of Islamic law that they are actively working to replace the U.S. Constitution with. Now, that initiative is advanced by terrorist acts, because those terrorist acts, they take our money, they take our time, they take our resources, they weaken us. But there are also many other groups that are working to achieve the same goal, the imposition of Islamic law over the United States, over Western Europe, and over our allies. But they are advancing it by means that have nothing to do with terrorist attacks. And one of the primary ways that they are trying to advance this goal is by making it out of bounds, ruling it out of bounds, making it something that's beyond the limits of polite society, to speak about the Islamic motivations, or in general, the motives and goals of the jihadists. Because the motives and goals of the jihadists always go back to Islam. If you read what they say, if you study their writings and their teachings and their actions, they're always going back to Islam. They're always saying, we are doing this because the Islamic religion teaches us to wage war against unbelievers in order to bring them under the rule of the Islamic social order. And they're very clear about this. But then there's a funny thing. You know, a sleight of hand trick, really a kind of prestidigitation that is worthy of the most talented magician in the world. The trick is that the Organization of the Islamic Conference, which is 57 Muslim governments around the world, the largest voting bloc at the United Nations right now, is undertaking an international initiative at the United Nations and elsewhere to pressure Western governments to criminalize what they call Islamophobia, to criminalize essentially criticism of Islam. But what's criticism of Islam by their definition? It is speaking about the motives and goals of the terrorists, because